What's crack-a-lackin'? It's your boy Broshmo, just in case you did not know. So, welcome back. We're talking tight ends today. Best available in the 2020 NFL mock draft. Before we get into that, go ahead and give this a thumbs up. If you enjoy the content, helps the video get discovered. YouTube likes, thumbs up, and become a bro and subscribe. It's much appreciated, much obliged. Got more content on the way tomorrow. Should be a new 2020 NFL mock draft, 3 rounds. I'm working on some of the stuff for that. So yeah, hopefully I'll have that out maybe at 5 or 6 tomorrow. We'll see. It should be out tomorrow regardless, so that ought to be fun. Got more of the teams, team off seasons, basically free agency mock draft for some teams. That should have 5 out this week, hopefully. And then we also have, defensive interior rankings for the 2020 draft will be out this week, as well as my updated quarterback and running back ones as well. Those were a ton of fun. I got a ton of more prospects that are included in that. So yeah, man, a lot happening on the channel, a lot happening. So let's go ahead. Let's get into the nitty gritty. We're talking about Noah T out of Oregon State. We're going through 11 through 20 right here. Probably undrafted free agent. Typically, on average, about 15 tight ends are drafted in the draft. So I could see the top 16 probably being drafted here, maybe 15. But Noah T, probably undrafted free agent. No surprise, he's ranked here at 20. Honestly, it'd be better for him to be converted to a wide receiver at the next level, because he's not a blocker. He has no blocking ability to speak of. He's good vertical threat, especially at 6'4", 246. Yeah, 246. So I like him there. I got Devin. I'm not even gonna try Asia C, but Devin A out of UCLA. He's actually pretty interesting. I don't know why he came out. He was a redshirt sophomore. He doesn't have a large sample size, really just the starting experience from this year. But at 6'3", 287, he could run a potential 4.8, which is wild, maybe even a high 4.7. So he has some interest in athleticism, but again, not a large sample size, and didn't really have a lot of production with the minimal sample size that we had. Jared Rice, he's been on this list for all of this year. Honestly, his tape from 2018 was a lot better, but I mean, you gotta like the athleticism here. But he's only at 230, and he lacks some serious strength. He won't be an inline blocker by any means. Then Joey, props for the best last name probably in this draft class, Joey Magnifico. That is beautiful. I love that last name. Very interesting athleticism on this guy. As a receiver and a blocker, he gives a ton of effort, but he's very unpolished in the sense in both those areas, just because Memphis's scheme, I mean, it just doesn't bode well for him at the next level. He's had limited opportunity, but he's still managed to be Memphis's leader at tight end for most receiving yards. So that's pretty cool, pretty neat. So, like I said, very raw prospect here. Jake Breland from Oregon, man. I had him in my top 10 for a little bit, but I mean, by far he was on his way. Well, he did have his best collegiate season this year, and he only played half of it. I mean, he showed good ball skills, but he still remains a limited playmaker based on, the tape we saw this season. And I mean, coming off that leg injury that ended the season, still a lot of questions. Don't know if he'll be ready for a combine or anything like that, but he would be honestly some good depth to add as an undrafted free agent. Then Sean McKeon out of Michigan, he's a quality blocker, quality depth piece. He definitely will find himself on a roster. He could honestly sneak into late day 3, but he won't be a difference maker as far as from a receiving aspect. Mitchell Wilcox, a guy that a lot of people were very high on. This guy, when it comes to his athleticism, he really had a high ceiling. He just never achieved his potential. Just huge drop issue, and I mean, he'll never be a consistent blocker in the NFL. But again, that high athleticism and probably what you can get, because I mean he's kind of a low risk, high reward type of guy for any team that drafts him late. Colby Parkinson, a guy, he was among, it's strange how my top 3 tight ends at the beginning of the year, we had Jared Pickney, Albert O out of Missouri, and then it was Colby Parkinson out of Stanford. These guys were my top 3, and they've actually dropped quite a bit on my tight end rankings. I mean, plus he comes from a pro style offense, great size, especially as a red zone threat. He's a pretty decent vertical threat for a tight end, but his height as a blocker really works against him. I really don't think he'll be able to be an inline blocker at the next level. He's easily pushed back by would-be tacklers that kind of use his height as a disadvantage for him. They kind of hit him high leverage, knock him off balance. You won't see it. He was minimally used as an inline blocker there at Stanford. Anyway, like I said, he's probably maybe just a red zone package type of guy. But yeah, man, I wish I saw more from him. He didn't really get any help from his quarterback play this year. Anyway, then Charlie T out of Portland State. Ain't even gonna try the last name. Ain't even gonna try. Minimal experience in the blocking game. But he's a high effort, high motor type of guy. He's a football player. He's got a really good football IQ, and you can see that displayed really in broken plays. How he comes back to the quarterback, just in his route running. There's really a lot to like about him. He didn't have a great Senior Bowl, but I mean, the majority of the tight ends didn't really anyway. But I can definitely see him in that round, 5th round, 6th round type of area. Albert O, Oakley Banam, baby, out of Missouri, and a lot of people aren't gonna have him this low on their list. But for me, it really hurt him returning. He really missed Drew Lock. They had a special type of connection. His production dipped from a game-by-game standpoint. He'll be money in the red zone, but I mean, in the open field, he really struggles to create separation, to create space. So I think there's just a lot. I think there's better athletic tight ends in this draft. That's just my opinion on it. And then we're going to the top 10. Jared Pickney. I just talked about him at the beginning. I was really high on Jared Pickney. I loved Jared Pickney, and I thought he would have been much higher if he came out in 2019. I loved his size. I loved his speed. But this season, I mean, the cons in his game seemed really amplified. I mean, he didn't get a lot of volume there this season at Vandy, and the quarterback play really didn't help either. But I mean, despite his size, he's 6'4", 255. He shows really an unwillingness to block, and I mean, even for any type of physicality outside of down the field. I mean, you could develop him as a blocker because, like I said, he has the size. But like I said, in the middle, he doesn't have that physicality. He struggles to separate. I mean, linebacker, really anybody, safeties in the middle, they'll undercut him with free of charge. They'll come up on him and he'll be like, oh, no, I don't want none of that. No sirree. At least that's what I got from his 2019 game tape. So, I mean, with those struggles, the struggles in separation, I mean, I still like his size, but really compared to his 2018 tape, it was kind of concerning. Thaddeus Moss out of LSU, which is kind of weird because I got the guy that Moss actually took the starting spot from higher on this list. But I'll get into that. I like Moss. I mean, outside of being Randy Moss's son, I mean, people probably know him for the big catch and run against Oklahoma, that 62-yard touchdown. But he isn't actually that great after the catch. He's got good breakaway speed, but he hardly has any acceleration. He really needs to be let off the block, so to speak, to get up to top speed. And I'm not saying he's a bad pass catcher, just he's not the best pass catcher, but he's probably the best block-in tight end in this draft. I mean, he can honestly start immediately from day one for any team, and he has enough receiving skills to really help any offense. I really like Thaddeus Moss as a prospect, and like I said, he would be a steal for most teams because I wouldn't go like second or third. I think he's early day 3. think he's early day 3. And I'll get into the other LSU guy in a minute, but let's talk about Josiah Degara out of Cincinnati. He definitely has a Kyle Juszczyk. I think I said his name right. The fullback from San Fran. That's my comp for him. This guy, he's a high effort guy with a bit of athleticism, but I think I see him being better used. And gosh, I really wish teams outside of San Francisco would use their players like this, because I mean, you saw it with Delaney Walker. He was kind of a Swiss Army knife. I think Josiah here could be used in the same regard. He's sneakily a very good route runner, and I think playing him in the backfield opposed to on the line as a blocker would actually be a more ideal situation for him. And you'll see with these basically 6 through 8, these guys, I think with the right team, they can be steals in this draft. On to Cheyenne O'Grady out of Arkansas. O'Grady, he could be the steal, honestly, of the draft. He could be, with his ball skills, he could be the top tight end in this draft. It's just, he's got all the off-season stuff. He's all the character red flags, you know. He's just a very risky prospect because that will he stay out of trouble. I mean, he's been suspended multiple times there at Arkansas before, just quitting on the team, walking away, left Arkansas. He played in the, I think it was the NFLPA Bowl. But, yeah, I mean, with all that all the character red flags, he's definitely a day 3, but he could be a big steal on day 3. And then Steven Sullivan, there we go, out of LSU. I'm going to be higher on this guy than probably everybody. I think really nobody's going to have this guy this high on their rankings list. And that's really... Yeah. He doesn't have much production. Like I said, Thaddeus Moss, he jumped him in the starting lineup. Sullivan, he only had 12 receptions for 130 yards. But keep in mind, he was on a very loaded pass catching unit there at LSU. But this is all based on projection. He's a former wide receiver, right? He's 6'6", 554. He's probably going to run near a 4.5. And if he does, oh my goodness, he has a ridiculous 85-inch wingspan. I mean, all this, like, just looking at him from a physical standpoint is very impressive. But like I said, there really is no production, especially with the sample size. He only had 300 snaps this season, but I love the athleticism for the size. And like I said, I'm going to be higher on this guy than probably everybody. But I think maybe 4th, 5th round, if you have an excess of picks, I don't mind taking a swing at a guy like this. Just putting it out there. And then on to my top 5. I feel my top 5 can be very interchangeable. I think all these guys are kind of in the same tier. They're pretty on par with one another. As far as, I guess, where you want to rank them, it's really what you're looking for. I guess from a value perspective, what you're looking for in a tight end your team wants to draft. Now, reason why I have Hopkins at 5 is I love his route running ability. I love his ability to stretch the field. He will not be a blocker by no means, but he had a huge drop issue at Purdue, and his ability to basically create yards after the catch was basically non-existent, at least on tape. But like I said, I love his ability to get open, his ability to stretch the field from a tight end perspective. And then I got Cole Kmet out of Notre Dame. He's probably the most rounded tight end of these 5. He's a great blocker, runs a complete route tree. He's got great hands, but he's definitely the least athletically gifted of those 5. But like I said, a lot of people are going to probably have him at number 1. Like I said, these guys can be interchangeable depending on what you're looking for. Hunter Bryant out of Washington coming in at 3. He's getting a lot of Evan Ingram comps, and I don't mind that too much. He's better after the catch than really any of the other guys in that top 5 that I'm talking about. But also keep in mind, he hasn't he doesn't really offer anything as a blocker. He has the size to, he has the physical tools, I guess, yeah, the physical tools to do so. And because he has those good traits, he could be a good inline blocker eventually if you develop him. I really like him. I kind of toyed with him being my number one, but I like the other two guys better, and it might be kind of a recency bias with me because I watched these two guys at the Senior Bowl. So, like I said, it could be a recency bias, but you could shuffle these top 5 guys any way you like. I think they're all good. Adam Troutman out of Dayton. Like I said, went to the Senior Bowl, and he was coming to the Senior Bowl with video game-like stats at his career at Dayton. He's a 6'5", 251. He tore up senior practices on the one-on-ones. And you kind of get this Travis Kelce, this George Kittle-like vibe from him. I don't know if any team will jump on him in the first round. I don't think any of these tight ends are worth a first-round pick. But I definitely can see any of these guys in the second-round conversation. And then my number one, you probably already knew that if you watched my Senior Bowl winners video. It's Harrison Bryant from Florida Atlantic. And why I decided to put Bryant as my number one is because for 3 seasons, he has been a great receiving option there at Florida Atlantic. Granted, this is all in the Conference USA, so not the best conference. He weighed 230 during the season, got his weight up to 242, and he was still winning on one-on-ones at the Senior Bowl. I loved it. I love when you could go up in weight and keep the athleticism. And I mean, you could kick this guy into slot. I just love that. He's always been a willing blocker there at Florida Atlantic. Doesn't mean he's the best blocker, but I like a guy that gives effort. High effort, man. High effort. I love that. I love that about it. And then you could tell he did improve though as a blocker this season. You saw a little bit of the Senior Bowl. He has the largest sample size of data and of any of these prospects because I mean he's basically started since he's had a significant playing time since he was a freshman, and I feel the most confident because of that. And I'm just saying, man, I'm kind of sold on this guy being a starter in the NFL. But that's it for the video. Go ahead, do the YouTube thing. It's always much appreciated, much obliged. Be on the lookout for other videos coming out during the week. And as always, you be easy, my friends. Later.